Namo Buddhaya. Good evening. Welcome to the Buddha Dharma TV. I am Karen Tan. Today we start our program with the chanting for blessing. We are going to listen to the chanting of the third part of Jaya Mingala Gata, stanzas of joyous victory. It is conducted by Venerable Bhukini Dembatawa Upalawana. To attain the desired calmness, please listen to the chanting mindfully, calmly, and peacefully.
Dopananda bhujagam vibudham mahidhing puttena thera bhujagena dhamma payanto iddhupadesa vidina jitava munindo tang tejasa bhavatu te jaya mangalani dugahadinti bhujagena sudatta hattam brahmang visuddhi jutimidha bakabhidhanam jnanagadena vidhina jitava munindo tang tejasa bhavatu te jaya mangalani etapi buddha jaya mangala attha gatha yo vachako dina dine sarate matandi hitvananeka vividhani chupaddavani mokkhaṃ sukhaṃ adhigameya naro sapanyo.
Now, let us focus our attention on Venerable Ajahn Achalo as he presents the insightful discussion regarding cultivation of jhana samadhi. Prepare yourself for a deep dive into his wisdom and guidance. His words promise to enrich our understanding and inspire us to reflect on our actions. Please welcome Ajahn Achalo of Australia to conduct the discussion.
Dear Ajahn, there are many different teachings about jhanas around. Could you please explain what leads to the first and any other relevant jhana, and how to tell if it's the real thing? So, the factors of jhana: Vitaka, Vichara, Piti, Sukha, Ekagata. One of the kind of hallmarks of Ajahn Chah's style of teaching was that he didn't emphasize trying to get jhana, and he didn't talk about it much. And neither does Ajahn Anan. And one of the main reasons, I believe, is a desire for the subtle samadhi states is an obstruction to them. So they place emphasis on laying the causes, and then they will occur in their own time. I personally don't believe it's the case that you can just study a theory or a method and apply it and get jhana. I don't believe that's the case. I think there are a lot of people who think they have jhana who don't, because it's not common. First jhana, appana samadhi, is very, very peaceful. One of the problems with trying to define jhanas is that when people have a tendency of overestimation, Ajahn Anan has explained that neighborhood concentration, so he explains that kanika concentration is when there aren't many thoughts and your mind feels peaceful and calm and a little bit peaceful for 5 minutes, then there'll be some thoughts again, and there's that sense of, oh, that was nice, that was peaceful. That's kanika samadhi. Upajjhara samadhi, Ajahn defines, explains as 10, 15, 20 minutes where there's very little thoughts and the thoughts are quite wholesome, but there's a feeling of tranquility, serenity, well-being, but the hindrances are significantly pacified. That's Upajjhara samadhi. The challenge, however, is Ajahn Anan explains that Upajjhara samadhi has a coarse, an intermediate, and a refined level. So I think it's the case sometimes that somebody has coarse Upajjhara, and they may think it's the first jhana. They have intermediate Upajjhara, they think it's the second jhana. They have refined Upajjhara, they think it's the third jhana, and they have not yet experienced jhana. So this is one of the challenges of trying to get them and trying to define them. When you look at the factors of jhana, vitaka, vichara, piti, sukha, ekagata, as I've been saying all throughout the retreat, I've been giving you instructions that would lead to jhana. Were your merits, efforts, and mindfulness strong enough? If you didn't get jhana, you may not have done anything wrong. It's just a matter of one has to keep laying the causes. So with vitaka and vichara, the instruction to keep being mindful of the feelings of the breath, just be with the feelings of the breath. When other things impinge, when other things arise, know it and let it go. That instruction leads to jhana. The issue is, how much can you do it? How much can you really be with your breath? How quickly can you see your thoughts? How strong is your mindfulness that you can let them go? That has nothing to do with a method. That has nothing to do with a concept. Other things that I've been saying, one has to practice the meditation consistently and diligently, because mindfulness gets stronger with consistency. So if it's the case that we do one retreat and we go back to a really busy life, we hardly meditate at all, we come back and we do another retreat, it's probably not likely that one would get jhana. If one does follow the Ajahns' instruction, diligent with 1 session a day, build up to 2 sessions a day, build up to 3 sessions a day, do a few retreats a year, then you're going to be increasing your chances. But one of the things in my own experience that leads to more samadhi is contentment with the peacefulness that arises. So contentment actually plays an important role. So you intend to be aware of the breath, keep giving the interest, keep giving the attention, some calmness, some peacefulness arises, and one is fully with that, is fully present with that experience without craving for more. But one notices the thing that led to that feeling, those peaceful feelings, is the consistency of the mindfulness with the object. So it's the vitaka and the vichara. It's the being aware of the object and placing the mindfulness on the object. And so one keeps up when the mind begins, and I think a habit a lot of people have is when the mind gets a little bit peaceful, they kind of delight too much in the peace and they let go of their awareness of the object. Another challenge is when you try to squeeze the object, and that also obstructs further peacefulness. So it's a real trick. It's a real trick of, and only a lot of practice is the thing. This is why I don't think it's a theory, I don't think it's a trick, I don't think it's a method. It's the ability to place the awareness on the object, and there's a kind of a being aware of it and relaxing. If you relax too much, you'll come out of the peacefulness, the mind will start wandering. If you place too much intention on knowing the object in every detail, the mind won't become peaceful. And it's a particular, it's like a graceful dance. You are aware of the object. When the peacefulness arises, you enjoy, you relax into the peacefulness without letting go of your awareness of the object. Sometimes a sense of space grows in the mind, maybe really vast space, but the mind has its center. It's aware of the object. That does lead to the first jhana, in my experience. I can't speak of the other ones. And metta practice, similarly, one can cultivate metta jhana. You start with the thoughts. So your vitaka and your vichara, I'm just going to say that the piti is the rapture. As I was saying earlier this morning, rapture is like the waves on top. You want to go deeper. Sukha is the cool, calm, steady, vast peace. So you don't. If you get excited about rapture, you'll be rapturous for a while and then you'll come out. If you're mindful of the rapture and you're mindful of your meditation object, the rapture deepens and leads you into what they call Tai Sangop Yen, tranquility. And you still. So there's a lot of people that think, oh, I got my reward, I'm going to rest now. And it's like, no. As the samadhi gets more subtle, as the breath gets more subtle, the mindfulness as it gets more subtle and sharper. And this is the trick. And so this is something that's learned through experience. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of hours of practice is what produces the ability to know how to be with the object in the right way, with the vitaka and the vichara, the awareness of the object, the interest in the object, the rapture, the tranquility. One knows how to be with the object, absorb into the object, relax into the awareness, deepen the tranquility, stay very still. That comes with practice. And similarly with the metta, one has the intention to have loving kindness, can use the breath. It starts with thoughts, it starts with oneself, beings that it is easy to have loving kindness towards. We train in stages to include more and more beings, at which point it becomes much more kind of a selfless. There's not much of a sense of an ego or a being who has metta. The metta just kind of takes over. The metta, pure unconditional love, becomes the object. And the person doesn't have to say, may I be well, may all beings be well, may I be happy, may all beings be happy. Just as the awareness of the breath and the Buddha can lead the mind to a peaceful state, and that peace becomes the object. Buddha falls away, awareness of the breath falls away. The peacefulness is there for some time. Come out of the peacefulness. Pick up the breath again. With metta, the thoughts, the intention, the radiating the metta, making it more and more impartial. Metta just become pure, vast, steady. Metta becomes the object. And similarly, then thoughts will come back. And then you can go back to the object, may I be well, may I be happy. So it's tricky, and as I said, I really like that Ajahn Anan describes Kanika Samadhi as Samadhi, Upajjhara Samadhi as Samadhi, and Appana Samadhi as Samadhi. He doesn't separate those beginning stages of concentration from jhana. And I think that's wise, because it's the contentment with it and being able to be still when the mind becomes peaceful that goes to the next level. And not recognizing the value of that, being discontent, trying to get something else, I don't believe that it will lead to it. So, in my own experience, it's one of the reasons I like to go to India and take 8 to 10 hours a day of meditating, is even as a monk who meditates 5 hours a day for 27 years, my samadhi gets better, more firm and more stable if I'm doing 8 to 10 hours a day for more than 8 days. That's the kind of effort that's required. And some people appear to develop samadhi more quickly. As I've said many times during this retreat, those are the people who put in vast efforts in their past lives. And there's only one way to grow in this path of dana, sila and bhavana, and that's by doing it. So if somebody appears to progress quickly, they've put in the hours before. Sometimes people who make enormous auspicious merits, sometimes their development of samadhi may be faster. If someone, due to their good fortune, has made offerings to many arahants, many Buddhas, and has very, very potent auspicious merit, particularly supporting others to practice, so that others develop peaceful minds, then when you come to practice, your mind might become more peaceful more quickly, if you've made that kind of auspicious merit. One of the requests of Visakha, when she asked for the special privilege of being able to offer alms, bathing cloths to every monk, and alms food to travelling monks, and alms food to sick monks, and the Buddha said, "Well, what's your intention, Visakha?" Visakha was already a stream enterer, of course. And Visakha said, "When I think of this, my mind will be glad. When my mind is glad, it will concentrate easily." And Lord Buddha said, it's true. So there's making merit, recollecting the merit, feeling glad, then the mind can, because this piti, this sukha, this rapture, there's different ways, different types of reflective meditations can give rise to rapture, and then that rapture can lead the mind to tranquility. So Visakha was skilled, not surprisingly. So we keep practicing, and it happens in its own time when we lay the conditions. And I wish you every success. And I believe I have been giving you the instructions that lead to jhana. Whether or not it did depended on how much you practiced and how sincerely you practiced. So, okay, I hope that something I said was interesting, useful, or entertaining.
Let us take a moment for a short intermission and immerse ourselves in the enchanting melodies of the song Farewell, Beautifully Explored, a Buddhist hymn from the Wayfarers.
Shall treasure the golden hours spent with you, hours that brought tears in fullest measure, all the blessings and the joys of friendship true. Farewell to you, our friends so true. May love and truth eternal guard you, and love divine upon your pathway shine, until we meet again. about with you in sweet communion before the Buddha's holy shrine, and the voting can grant the union of our spirits in his brotherhood divine. Farewell to you, our friends so true. May love and truth eternal guide you, and love divine upon your pathway shine, until we meet again.
Please now join us for our upcoming insightful talk with Venerable Bhikkhuni Aya Santusika of the United States. Her insights are remarkably rational, requiring your outer focus to unravel the profound depths of her Dharma discourses. Don't miss out as Venerable Bhikkhuni sheds light on the popular topic, the middle way. Now, please welcome Venerable Bhikkhuni Santusika to talk on this valuable topic. And it is the third and the final part of the lengthy sermon. Let's welcome Venerable Bhikkhuni Santusika to deliver the third part of her sermon.
I think I had an allergic reaction to something I ate. That's what my theory. But it's the nature of having a human body. And maybe it feeds in a little bit to this topic this morning on right effort. So yesterday I talked about right view and right intention, the wisdom component, and then in the afternoon about right speech, right action, and I didn't talk about right livelihood yet. We'll start there. And so we can finish off the part on sila, or virtue. Fundamentally, the teachings on right livelihood are about not doing harm through our work, a way of work that harms no being. It's a little tricky to figure out what that is these days. Obviously, some things are really apparent after this shooting in California last week. I saw a little statement by the man who sold the gun in Nevada. And he said that this was so against everything he believes in. And I just thought, you are so confused. The Buddha said, don't trade in weapons, don't trade in alcohol or drugs, or don't take up the job of being a butcher. So you can kind of see it's like anything that would cause someone to break the 5 precepts, or that involves breaking the 5 precepts ourselves. And sometimes when we're working somewhere, we can, it can be a perfectly fine line of work, but the management may want us to do something that isn't so fine, something deceitful, or harmful to someone, and it can be very difficult to say no. But I really feel like when we understand the power, I guess I would say, of the karma of what happens as we develop the mind and keep the precepts and stay far away from harming, and the power on the other side of what happens when we, give in and do things that are actually harmful. Once we understand that, we are not so in doubt about what to do. Once before I had this come up in my own life once before, long before I became Buddhist or knew about Buddhism, but I was working at a high-tech company, and there wasn't anything wrong with our product. The first job I had was for the defense industry. That was a problem. And I really didn't, in those very early days, I really didn't think about it when I interviewed for the job or took the job. I was, it was my first actual professional job, and I was happy to get it. And it took about 8 months before I realized that I just couldn't work there. But then a few years later, I was working at a company that did health insurance software, and it's not an ethical problem for me. But the management wanted, I would hear from people when I started working there that the management would ask them to lie to customers or to do things that they felt were really wrong, and it sounded pretty horrible, but I didn't know what to say or what to think about it. But then the vice president of marketing asked me to said that I was going to be sent to the East Coast to visit this customer, and that I should tell them things that would cause one of the people in their organization to get fired. And it really bothered me, so I kept thinking about it as I, kind of the time of the trip came, and I realized I just couldn't do it, even if they would fire me. So as soon as I made that decision, I felt better. And I went to the vice president of marketing, and I told him about my decision, and I said, it's just, I can't do this. This is wrong. And it was interesting because we actually had a long conversation about business and ethics, and they didn't fire me. And we actually became friends, and I don't really think I don't know of another case where they were asking people to do that stuff. And I'm not, it's like, I had no idea what would happen, and it was scary. But I think it's really something, as I look back, I feel like I wouldn't have had so much consternation over it if I really understood the power of the precepts and the power of virtuous action and the deadly power of breaking those precepts. So in the moment, it can seem really serious what we're facing, and we feel like we have to buckle, but I really would encourage you to hold the precepts and the virtue of your life and the purity of your mind higher than whatever forces there might be in the world. So, another aspect of livelihood is just how much of what we do for work pulls us away from what's important. You know, it may not be possible to have the perfect job. I don't know if there is such a thing. I like my job quite a bit, but there are a lot of things involved in it, that as with anything, you're never going to like all of it. And all of it is not going to be like supportive and wonderful for your state of mind and all that. But to really, if you have choices, to really look at, well, what would support me in developing? Because everything that we do is a practice. It's like what we're spending our time on is a practice. We're training the mind if we're, on Facebook, or, we're training the mind if we're, doing whatever we're doing. And what kind of training is the mind getting? And so thinking about, how do I want to make a living that's actually going to be an uplift to my mind? Is that something that is possible? And it can have more to do with who you work with sometimes than what the work is. And it can have a lot to do with how one is able to address the situations that come up. If we can be mindful, present, skillful in communication. And from my experience, I'm sure this is maybe common knowledge, that who you work for, your direct manager or boss, makes a huge difference. It's hard to find a good one, but if you do, that's almost better than maybe earning more money. Sometimes people might think that you can't really take these things on totally as lay people. But I don't think that's true. There's a lot we can do in lay life. You don't have to have robes to really live and work and I would say enjoy your life that is completely consistent with the Dhamma and really supportive of our development. So now I'm going to talk about right effort, which is, of course, related because right effort kind of figures into everything. Effort or energy is one of the factors that you find on almost all these lists of the Buddhas. More than anything else, the energy or effort is there because you can't really get much done without effort. And it can be challenging to know, when is the right time to push harder and when is the right time to ease off. And that's not really probably the only dimension to right effort, how much we're putting in, but the way in which we're applying our energy is also something to reflect on. And I think that for a lot of people in our culture, we're very driven, and we're encouraged to be very driven. And it's often too much. So when we meditate, we might want to just really push, and it doesn't help. That is probably more productive to have consistent calm effort. You're meditating and you want to have the consistency of keeping the mind focused and bright and clear on its meditation object, and that's enough. If we're striving too hard, the word striving shows up a lot in the suttas, and it can lead us to think that we need to be really constantly boot camp kind of attitude, and often that's somewhat counterproductive. So applying our effort consistently and strong enough to really guide the mind to stay present, or really encouraging ourselves in reflection on these things we've been talking about, but not with a kind of harshness. Just enough. And of course, the other side, the lax side, this is what I've been told by friends in Thailand, for example, that the people appreciate more of this strive, work, because their tendency is more lay back, and they need that encouragement, from what I'm told. So we have to take into account what our mind is like. If it has a tendency to be lazy, then we need to encourage it more. If it has a tendency to be really, intense and pushing hard, we have to calm it down and encourage it to be more even. So right effort, as I'll drift into mindfulness here, right effort is really important part of mindfulness, is our mindfulness is keeping something in mind. So we hear tons about mindfulness all over the place, hundreds of books now written about mindfulness. And what the Buddha taught, as you probably know, was to bring your mind to an object, to be present with that. Mindfulness also has the word sati is also related to memory. So you're remembering to keep your mind focused on this object. This is what you do in meditation. Mindfulness throughout the day, you're actually observing what's going on. You're observing what you're feeling. You're observing what is happening with others. It's one of the hard things to do, especially if you're receiving criticism or somebody's upset. If the mindfulness is engaged, then you can observe all the feelings that are coming up for you, and you can be listening to what's happening with them, deeply listening to where they're coming from. And as I said earlier, too, mindfulness is really powerful with regard to being present with what we're experiencing, not being awash in our feelings, but being able to be present with them instead of in them. It's necessary to have mindfulness in order to even know if we're doing something wholesome or unwholesome. It's really valuable because it's that awareness. And the other really valuable part is that when we're grounded in mindfulness, when that's engaged, then we're coming from a place of calm. And we're coming from a place of stability. So it sounds funny, but the body can be filled with all kinds of feeling, like anger or, my friend, the grumpy, and at the same time, we're mindful and present with that. And the mindfulness isn't angry. It's not having that experience. And that part of the mind that's engaged with this has equanimity. It's calm. I remember Ajahn Sumedho talking about one time one of the nuns came to him and said, everything's dark. I mean, it sounds like she was dealing with depression and maybe some other things, I don't know, but she said, everything's dark. And he said, is the one who sees that dark, is that part that observes that dark? And no matter what we're experiencing, the answer to that is no. There's a way to step back from experience and see it. You're still feeling all this stuff, but you're seeing it. And it's in that space that we have the chance to make decisions about what to do and to recognize that, oh yeah, this is another wave in a process of living, experiencing, that's going to pass. So practice is training the mind to be able to just move into that and hold that. So when mindfulness is really consistent, this is all the teachers that I see in Thailand, it's like, make your mindfulness constant. Like, what right now are you being mindful of? And I know it's kind of popular now to talk about kind of a general mindfulness, like I'm just mindful of everything. It gets too floaty and watered down. It's not really very clear. So it's as someone asked Ajahn Pasano about this once, and he said, it's a nice idea that we can just be mindful and we're not mindful of something. But the truth is we're mindful of something and then our mindfulness changes to being mindful of something else. It's not like we're just like, it's like this kind of bare awareness idea. Isn't quite really what goes on. So it's important not to fall into some idea that, oh yeah, I'm being mindful, when actually maybe not. And so then being present and aware and knowing what we're being mindful of. And it is the case that our mindfulness can expand. So someone said to me, and I've had this kind of thing happen too, that she was like determined she's going to be really mindful. She's driving over to the Dharma meeting, and she said, I'm going to be really mindful. And then she's being really mindful of like whatever she was noticing, and she misses, and she goes through a red light because she's like not mindful of that. She's mindful of something else. And it's like, no, this is very, obviously there's also this discernment always that comes with mindfulness, the clear comprehension. um, and kindness. So it's those three together that really cause mindfulness to be correct, right mindfulness. Because you can, mindfully rob a bank. You can mindfully do all kinds of things that are wrong, but without clear comprehension and wisdom, you don't have the right context. And for us to be mindful but tight, tense, again, striving too much maybe, or irritated. It's like we can be mindful of being irritated. All feelings are quite natural. They come up out of whatever old kind of conditioning there is. But to be mindful and present, from that place of calm, from that place of stability. And what we tend to do over time is strengthen that part of the mind. It has more of the space than the part that's reacting to whatever and experiencing, feeling whatever is happening. I hope that makes some sense. I'm a little bit on a different planet this morning, so forgive me. I think maybe I'll just use that as an example. My digestive system somehow had some kind of issue with something, I think, and maybe an allergy reaction. But the whole night of headache, nausea, diarrhea, and then this morning it's like, okay, I'm going to go to the meditation. And as soon as I start bowing, I'm like, the next thing I'm going to have to do is run to the bathroom and hurl, I think. So I don't kind of want to do that. And it's like, we've all had these experiences, and we probably all know that we can be with them in different ways. It's like, yes, it is possible that something bigger is going wrong. My eyelids are also thickened, so there's some kind of allergy thing probably going on. There's this but it's like, how can we just bring the mind to what's happening, use enough wisdom to okay, this is the best thing to do to support the body right now. Not worry about what people are going to think. Not worry about whether or not this is some bigger crisis. Using enough awareness and mindfulness that in case some indication shows that it's something bigger, that we do the right thing. Obviously, this is like another opportunity to be present with what's happening and make choices about how we deal with it. And it's constant. Like right now, you can decide where you put your attention. And, maybe it's like, wow, she's really annoying today, or, I don't want to be listening to this. I'd rather be outside, it's so nice, or whatever, right? And you can also think, yeah, I really know all this, But then maybe there's also a way to be present with that whole mental or emotional experience in a way that we learn something and come to understand ourselves more. Maybe there's a question you'll ask later that will drive this whole discussion more deeply into something that you really want to know. Anyway, just a thought. So I think what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about samadhi to round out the Noble Eightfold Path. And then this afternoon, take more questions if you're up for that. And each one of these noble factors is, a book in itself. Of course, there's a lot in the suttas, and there's a lot written about them, and a lot said about them. And as I said from the beginning, I really want us to put our attention on practice. So samadhi is the part that we often think of is the practice, right? Because it's the sitting, bringing our mind to a single focus. And as I said, meditation was kind of the first main thing that people in this culture wanted from Buddhism. But it's essential that all of the factors are there. As I said before, we're working on all 8. And samadhi can be thought of as the practice of meditation, and it also can be thought of as a state that you experience in meditation. So when the mind becomes very still, one of the experiences you can have is noticing that there isn't anything you want, and there isn't anything you want to get rid of in that state. That the mind is really at peace. And there are different levels of samadhi. So in the suttas, we see the description of the 4 jhanas and the 4 immaterial states. And they have different qualities. The teachers I have pretty much say, don't worry about that. It can easily become something that we're kind of trying to make happen and tick the boxes off. They're more concerned about whether or not we actually can settle the mind. Because in some sense, the process is quite natural if we let go. And if we look at each of those descriptions of deepening samadhi or jhana, it's always letting go of something that brings you to the next one. So when we're sitting, the focus on our object is consistent and, in a way, soft, if you will. Maybe you'll have the right adjective for how the mind is settled on this object. And then to see what there is to let go of. Am I holding on to some, pleasant feeling that I'm getting from this? Can I let go of that? Or am I holding on to, or of course there are the hindrances, the 5 hindrances that get in the way of our being able to calm ourselves, and they're very important to look at. The last time I taught here, I taught about the hindrances and the enlightenment factors, so I'm not going to really go into it today. But it's like this is where we take care of what needs to be taken care of in order for the mind to be settled and at peace, and to not be upset with ourselves for any reason around whatever is arising. Even if you've been practicing meditation for 40 years, you can have you can sit down and the mind be running all over the place. And usually what one needs to do in that case is to take the meditation position that's most helpful, like maybe walking meditation is more helpful to bring the mind down. And what we're doing before we sit down to meditate has a very big impact. So watching the news and then sitting down to meditate for 20 minutes doesn't really work. And it's also because of the other factors. You know, if we're keeping good sila, we don't have as much chaos coming up in the mind when we sit to meditate. So it all works together. And then when we're, you know, there present with this experience, whatever it happens to be, things may happen that might, you know, bring up some excitement. So okay, we can let go of that. And it's just that process of continually letting go. And that's really the process of the path, you know. Letting go of everything that we think we are, letting go of everything we think we have, and allowing the mind to become clear and calm. I think that's enough for the moment. And
that wraps up today's broadcast. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact us at info@buddhadharmatv.com. We work hard to share the noble, peaceful, and sublime teachings of the Buddha with you, helping you pursue the spiritual path under his wisdom. Please encourage and support those interested in the rational and enlightened teachings of the Buddha. Thank you for watching. We believe our programs on Buddha Dharma TV will inspire peace lovers around the globe. Good night. Namo Buddhaya.